Welcome to the conversation you never knew you needed. No filters, no masks, just real talk and honest insight.
Okay, so you're scrolling through Instagram, right? And bam, it's like every other post is someone with these insanely perfect cheekbones. And you're sitting there wondering, is it just like good angles? Or did they invent a cheekbone filter I don't know about? Well, get ready because today we are diving deep into the world of subtle enhancements. That's right, we're talking about HA fillers. And if you've ever wondered, even for a second, how these injectables actually work, what makes them plump, smooth, sculpt, you are in the right place. And to help us unpack all of this, I've got our expert here to break down the science of it all in a way that even I can understand.
It's true. There's a lot of science packed into these tiny little syringes, but fear not, we're going to demystify it all for you today.
Okay, I'm so ready. Let's start simple. Hyaluronic acid, right? We hear it everywhere, but what actually is it?
In the simplest terms, hyaluronic acid, we call it HA for short. It's like this superpowered sugar molecule. Picture a long chain, and it's made up of these smaller sugar molecules all linked together. And here's the wild part. Our bodies actually produce HA naturally.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Make this stuff? No way.
Yeah, we do. It's in our skin, our eyes, our joints, basically anywhere that needs to stay, like plump and lubricated. HA is our body's own built-in moisturizer, keeping things nice and volumized.
Wow, that's incredible. Okay, but hold on. If our bodies already make HA, why are we getting fillers to add more as we age? Shouldn't our bodies just, I don't know, keep making it?
Such a good question. And it gets right to the heart of why we see those visible signs of aging in the first place. As we get older, our body's like, yeah, not so much HA anymore.
Right.
We produce less, and the HA we do have starts to break down way faster. Less volume, more wrinkles, that kind of deflated look. It's all connected to that HA decline.
Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense. So it's like we're giving our skin a helping hand, right? Replenishing what it's lost over time. But here's where I get tripped up. There are so many different types of HA fillers out there. Is it just branding, or are there actual differences between them?
You're totally right. It can feel overwhelming. Like, how are you supposed to choose with all these brands and names? But here's the thing. It's not just branding. The real difference comes down to something called rheology.
Rheology. That word sounds like equal parts fascinating and intimidating. Break it down for me. What is it?
Don't worry, it's way less complicated than it sounds. Rheology is basically the study of how materials, deform and flow. With HA fillers, it helps us understand how they'll behave when they're actually injected into your skin.
So it's not like we're just injecting a blob of HA and hoping for the best. There's actual science behind how it spreads, how firm it is, all that.
Exactly. And this is where it gets really, really cool. Imagine for a second, HA fillers like gummy bears.
Okay, I love where this is going. I'm all about gummy bears.
So you've got your gummy bears that are super firm and bouncy, right? They spring back to their original shape immediately. Those would be like fillers with high elasticity. Then you've got your softer, more moldable gummy bears, the ones you can kind of squish between your fingers. Those represent fillers with high viscosity.
Gotcha. Okay, so some fillers are like those bouncy gummy bears, holding their shape and giving you lift. Others are more like the moldable kind, smoothing out lines. Am I getting that right?
A perfect way to think about it. And just like gummy bears, the unique properties of those HA fillers, they come from things like how concentrated the HA is, how those HA molecules are linked together. We call that cross-linking, by the way. And even the size of the HA particles themselves matters. It all affects the filler's rheology, which then determines what happens once it's injected.
Okay, I'm with you on the gummy bear thing. That really helps. But how do we actually measure these properties in fillers? Is there like a scientific gummy bear test or something?
Haha, I wish it were that simple. To really understand how a filler is going to behave, we look at 4 key parameters. Think of them like vital signs for your filler.
Okay, love that. Hit me with those vital signs.
All right, so first up is G. That stands for complex modulus. Basically, this tells us how much force it takes to actually deform the filler, when it's being injected, or even just under pressure from your facial muscles. So a high G means you're dealing with a pretty firm filler, one that really holds its shape.
So a high G filler, that's what you'd want for, say, the nose, where it needs to be super firm and like withstand pressure.
Exactly, you got it. Now, the next one is G, which stands for elastic modulus. This one's all about how well the filler bounces back to its original shape after being, stretched or compressed. Think of it like a rubber band, high G, lots of snap to it.
So that's our bouncy gummy bear filler, right? High G.
You got it. They're all about that rebound. Now, next up we have G, the viscous modulus. This one tells us about the filler's flowability, or in other words, how easily it spreads within the tissue. A high G means you've got a more fluid filler, one that's going to distribute nice and smooth.
Okay, so that would be like our moldable gummy bear, the type of filler you'd use for like smoothing out fine lines.
Exactly, you're getting it. And then finally, we've got tan delta, which is really just a ratio of G to G. This ratio, it tells us if a filler is more elastic, like our trusty rubber band, or more viscous, like honey. This is key because it really dictates how the filler is going to act once it's in the skin.
So it's like a personality test for fillers, right?
Right.
We're looking at how firm they are, how well they bounce back, how well they flow. And then that tan delta ratio, that tells us their overall, I don't know, vibe, whether they're more structured or soft and spreadable.
That is such a great way to put it. Because you wouldn't want a super structured filler in your lips, right? And you definitely wouldn't want a runny, low cohesivity filler in your nose.
Low cohesivity.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay, that's another one we haven't really touched on yet. What did that even mean in the filler world?
You're right. We got to talk about cohesivity. It basically refers to how well the filler actually holds its shape once it's been injected. A highly cohesive filler is going to stay put, maintain its volume right where it's placed.
So if you want a really defined, sculpted look, say, in the cheekbones, you'd want a filler that's got that high cohesivity.
Exactly. It all comes down to how those HA molecules are, like, interacting with each other. High cohesivity. Think of it like a perfectly organized marching band. They're sticking together no matter what. Lower cohesivity. Now you're talking more like a group of friends at a crowded party. They might wander off and mingle a bit.
Okay, I am loving these analogies. All right, so we've got our 4 parameters, GG, G, and tan delta. Those tell us all about a filler's firmness, elasticity, viscosity, its whole personality.
Yeah.
And then we've got cohesivity, which tells us how well it keeps its shape. Did I get that right?
Nailed it.
This is blowing my mind. I had no idea there was this much science behind these injectables.
And this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Okay, so with all of that in mind, how do we actually choose? Like, how do we know which filler is right for which part of the face? My forehead feels very different from, like, my nasolabial folds.
Oh, you are so right. Different areas have very different needs. And that's exactly where understanding these rheological properties becomes so crucial.
All right, so where do we even begin? Let's talk forehead.
Yeah.
What are we thinking about when we're choosing a filler for that area?
So the forehead is interesting, right? Because we could be dealing with a few different things up there. You might have volume loss in the temples, or those static lines, the ones that are etched in even when you're not making an expression, or even those fine dynamic wrinkles that pop up when you raise your eyebrows.
And each of those would need a different approach, right?
Totally. If you're looking to replace volume in the temples, maybe create a more lifted brow, you'd want a filler with a high G. Remember, that's our bounce back factor. We need something with some structure there.
So it's like building like a little scaffold under the skin to kind of lift everything up.
Exactly. Now, for those fine lines and wrinkles, you might go for something with a lower G's, something that's going to spread out nice and smooth without creating any, unwanted bumps.
Yeah, it's a much softer approach. Okay, what about the nose? What kind of filler are we using there?
Okay, so the nose is constantly being bumped and nudged. Think about it. You probably touch your nose more than you even realize. We need a filler that can stand up to all that.
True. I never even thought about it like that.
Yeah.
So which properties are key for the nose?
High cohesivity, for sure, remember, that's the filler's ability to hold its shape. And because we're often trying to create projection in the nose, that higher G's comes in handy again to give us some lift and definition.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So nose, we're thinking high cohesivity, able to hold its shape. Chin, same idea. A lot of people are looking for more definition there these days.
Oh, absolutely. Chin augmentation is super popular for a reason. And yeah, just like the nose, we're talking high cohesivity, a good amount of G to really sculpt and define.
This is so cool. Okay, we have to talk nasolabial folds. You know those lines that run from the nose down to the corners of the mouth? Those can be tricky.
You're telling me the nasolabial folds are a whole different ballgame. They often require like a multifaceted approach. We might need to address volume loss in the cheeks that can contribute to those folds, and we want to soften the appearance of the lines themselves.
So what, like different fillers in the same area? Is that a thing?
It is. Layering fillers with different properties is actually a super common technique. So for deeper volume loss, we might use a filler with a higher G's for lift and support. And then we can go in with a softer, more spreadable filler with a lower G's to fill in the fine lines.
Wow. It really is an art form. I had no idea how much thought goes into picking the right filler.
Oh, it's definitely more than just picking a brand name. And there's actually one more thing I want to leave you with. We've talked about how those HA fillers are naturally broken down by your body, which is why they're not permanent. But things like your metabolism, sun exposure, even how expressive you are, that can all affect how quickly those fillers are actually metabolized.
Wait, really? Are you saying if I'm, like, super expressive with my face, my filler might break down faster?
It's definitely something to keep in mind. And it just goes to show how important those follow-up appointments with your injector really are. They can see how the filler's settling, how your face is responding, and adjust your treatment plan if they need to.
This has been amazing. I feel like I learned so much. Thank you. And listeners, remember, this is just a starting point, okay? It's so important to talk to a qualified medical professional to figure out what's right for you. But until then, I think we've all earned ourselves a little treat, maybe a gummy bear or two.